A disturbing video release of the Parkland shooting suspect, Nikolas Cruz. It contains hours of footage of the 19-year-old, currently on trial for the murder of 17 students last February. Phil Keating picks up the story live in Miami. The suspect eventually had to be handcuffed to protect himself.
Yeah, Bill, that's because every time the detective stepped out of the room, Nikolas Cruz would begin hurting himself. Just minutes after being brought from the hospital to the sheriff's department interrogation room, well, that's when Cruz begins punching himself over and over and over again. And once the questioning started, it did not take long for him to tell the detective that he's long had a voice in his head, his demon.
Why didn't you stop it then?
I don't like the demon, I don't like the demon, I don't like the demon, I don't like the demon.
Well, that's if the demon even exists.
Can I get an attorney or something?
Later during the 12-hour interview, the detective steps out of the room and Cruz starts biting his forearm repeatedly, trying to make himself bleed. When left alone, the gravity of the situation also seems apparent.
Kill me.
Large portions of this 12-hour interview do remain secret still. Per the judge, it's redacted to ensure Cruz can still get a fair trial. That's the portion where Cruz allegedly gives a step-by-step account of how he carried out the worst high school massacre in U.S. history, shooting several young students repeatedly as they lie bleeding in the classrooms and hallways. Around midnight, Cruz's 18-year-old brother Zachary is let in, and that's when Cruz breaks down, crying and sobbing. Cruz also reveals how lonely he was, depressed over his mother's death, and that he had attempted suicide twice. Cruz also surprised the detective by saying just a week before the Valentine's Day shooting, he had planned to go to a park and start shooting up people there, but for whatever reason, he backed out of that plan. Cruz remains in jail, facing charges and, of course, awaiting trial. His defense attorneys have offered to plead guilty to everything to avoid the death penalty. That's something prosecutors still refuse to accept.